a rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but that beauty.
You gonna do some questions and stuff too? Lead them? Yeah.
You, my brother, Robert Brown. Love you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Brother Champ, love you, bro. Thanks for tuning in. Okay. Let's get this show started. Get what the people wanted. Okay. Welcome to a special We Us an Hour show. I'm your host, Michael Phelps from the We Us an Hour community group. I have a special guest, one of the brothers. He came in and me and him we was having some talks, and man, we wanted to talk about some of this black and white issues, and why can't we tell each other nothing?
Very true.
Can you introduce yourself, my brother?
Ross Brotherton.
And tell me where you're from and your background.
So I'm actually from Wichita Falls, Texas. Born and raised there. Went to undergrad there. Did a bunch of ranching, cattle stuff, oil and gas, and then came to Omaha to go to Creighton Law School, and finished Creighton Law School 2 years ago.
Man, so you went from cattle to law school.
I did, yeah.
So you're gonna be taking over the family?
Yeah, hopefully.
So you can take some of that experience and knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and do powerful, wonderful things.
Hopefully.
Right.
Can.
That's what's up. We're discussing about we want to talk about black and white issues, and we want to talk about what what is it that what do you think is separating us?
I mean, obviously the easy answer is just a simple misunderstanding. I think being a white guy, we walk into places and make generalizations about people of color, and but obviously the way I dress with boots and jeans and usually a cowboy hat, and I think generalizations get made that I'm some honky racist and can't get along or can't relate with black people, and so I think that's just that first step. Uh, but then again, and to me, a lot of it is just a general. There's that misunderstanding, and then with that becomes these walls that we build of saying, okay, I'm going to generalize you because of this, and I don't care about anything else, and then I take that and use it against everybody.
So do you think that do you think it stems from upbringing?
I think for a lot of people it does. For me, like I said, I was lucky. I had two good parents. I was lucky, but I also grew up playing football, basketball, and like you and I talked when I was in high school, in college. If we had a game at 6 or 7 in the evening, uh, most of us white guys had trucks or cars. A lot of the black kids couldn't afford them and didn't have them. And when we'd get out of school at 2:30 or 3, coach would say be back at 5:30. And for those of us white guys, we could just go home and hang out and play video games and stuff. And for the people of color, some of my friends who were black, the buses wouldn't bring them back to school, so they were stuck at school. So, I don't think it was upbringing because my mom was very open and said, "Tell them to come to the house. Come over to our house. I'll cook y'all food. Y'all can take naps. Play video." We played at the time. It was Sega Dreamcast. I don't know who all remembers Sega Dreamcast, but that was the big thing right before Xbox came out. We played pickup basketball up and down the drive, and they were all respectful. I mean, it really opened my eyes to probably the first thing. I don't think it was my upbringing, but just what I was told on TV and what you saw on TV and movies, that you guys were disrespectful, you didn't know how to hold yourself, carry yourself. And like I was telling you earlier, every one of my friends were so respectful to my family, folded blankets, put their stuff, yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. Would always say hi to my parents out and about, be very thankful and have gratitude. And it opened my eyes. I thought, well, they're not any different than me or my friends then. And so they're always welcome where I'm at. It doesn't bother me any. Yeah. But I think a lot of it is some upbringing. But I think like I said, the hard part is I think you have to be careful about, saying that every white person was raised to assume that, because like I said, when you walked in and first probably saw me, you probably would have assumed that, but I wasn't. I've been on that side of town. I've seen, the struggles that a lot of my black friends had, and it just opened my eyes that I was very, very lucky, but then I also shouldn't cast doubt on somebody else that, we don't get to pick our parents. We don't get to pick our race. We don't get to do anything like that. And, I was lucky, and it wasn't I shouldn't be casting doubt on somebody else or casting judgment on somebody else, before they showed themselves to me.
And that's always been interesting thing, because when we met at the bar.
Yeah.
When we come, me and the guys from work stopped through it, and we were just talking, and you heard our conversation, and then I told you we started talking.
Yep.
And then you started buying us drinks, and then and then we all just started having a great time. And then the next time we came, then we was talking, and I told you I had a podcast.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I said, man, it's interesting because when I said the podcast, we both started talking about, man, it's kind of weird how the stigma is that we don't get along because you was a country boy and I'm a city slicker or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And we was talking about country as city slickers. And I said, why do they think we city slickers? I said, why did that come up? Why they think that we're city slickers? And we call you country bumpkins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Why do you think that is the overall perception of when we see each other?
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I think it's just because obviously going back, I think some of our land started with my great grandfather and raising cattle and living off the land. And I don't know, it just has always seemed like you guys are more urban than, like I said, I can hoop. Most people don't think I can hoop either in boots and jeans, and I can do that. But I don't think you judge a book by the cover.
Well, Larry Bird came in like
yeah, and he was a country bumpkin.
yeah.
French Lick, Indiana.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times too, I think y'all get the wrong. People take the wrong idea about you guys. I'll tell you an example. In Wichita Falls, we have a very, very. If anybody on here is watching, her name's Arthur B. She actually has a plaque now at our courthouse. She was the first black and woman, both, attorney in Wichita County, where I'm from. So she was the first African-American attorney and then the first woman at the same time. She was on the city council, very influential in our town, lived to, well into her 90s. And my dad always gave me a good perspective on her. She was very smart, very articulate, but she stayed on our side of town, what we call the east side, where the African Americans live. Yeah. She had a nice house. We went over there when she was running for city council. And I asked Dad, the whole demeanor of white people was always, if you can get out of that, why wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. My dad said, because that's our community. That's where she wants to live. It doesn't mean she's not successful. Yeah. It doesn't mean she can't get out of there. I mean, it's the same thing with, you want to live around people that are, when I live out in the country, I live with people that, raise cattle, stuff like that. I mean, I don't want to live in the city. It doesn't matter where it is. But that was a good perspective to me, to be like, we shouldn't have this idea that just because they haven't left where they came from doesn't mean they're not successful or not doing good things, because you want to be in the community that's your community, whether you're white, black, Jewish, exactly. Whatever, Muslim. So I that was a good perspective. But like I said, for me, I was very lucky. I remember my mom told me one day too, I was dating, and if I offend anybody, I'm sorry, but just where I came from, Hispanic, Mexican, which is not a bad term to them, but I was dating this Mexican girl in high school, and somebody was giving me shit for it, this country guy. And my mom said, I don't care what color you bring home, as long as y'all like each other, I don't. And when my mom said that, I just thought, okay, makes sense. And, I've always, just like I said, I treat somebody just as well as they're going to treat me, and I give everybody the benefit of the doubt until you cross that, and I haven't had any problems.
Well, I got 2 comments for us already. Okay, my brother Champ said, he sounds like he had a good upbringing. I'm curious, what about other relatives, cousins, etc., and friends? Did they have the same upbringing? Were they also sympathetic to Black struggles?
I'll say yes and no. I'll say this. I have a very, very large family. My mom actually had 84 first cousins. I've got over 100. I'm not going to name names on here, obviously, because I don't want them to get backlash. But I did go to some family outings and barbecues where they were not open to y'all's struggles, and they were racist. I mean, they were, but I just always thought, everybody I knew from my town, Wichita Falls, that I played basketball and football with, whatever they've done since then, they were always good, nice to me, been nice to me. Um, but yeah, I did have family that was like that, and then they weren't open to that struggle. But it was so funny because with my upbringing and then the black friends that I had, every time I would hear them, I would always think like, they're just so ignorant. Like I literally get so much out of them, and I learn stuff about their culture and where they came from and why their background is so tough. And I took them home after basketball games over, like I said, in Wichita Falls, it's the east side. That is a very, very rough area. And, I would reflect on that and say, okay, now I can understand some of the things when they're growing up over here. It's tough, but yeah, no, I had some family members and still do, that are probably labeled racists.
Labeled, I don't mean they really are.
Well, but I look at it as, the way I look at it, whether it's right or wrong, and it's wrong for y'all, and it's hard, but they're just ignorant, and to me it makes them look more stupid because you're just not opening up to the world. There's so many other people you can meet and cultures you can learn and things you can learn and hell, food you can learn, just cultural differences that it's like you guys are so closed off to the world, you have no idea what you're missing. And, I think that's a product of them growing up because, like I said, I've got family members still in Texas to this day that didn't go to high school with black people because they were still segregated.
Oh, okay. I got another comment too.
Yeah.
My brother Alan McFall said it's an easier place of reference to frame folks into boxes. That it in itself isn't bad, but unfortunately most tend to define those boxes in a negative way.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. I agree with that. And then everybody gets framed in those boxes. And, of course, we all know this, whether it makes the news or not, but there's white trash piece of shit people too that are all mad that could make all of us look bad. It's no different than I think, and I think everybody could relate to this. We all have that family member that's like, damn, you're making the whole family look bad. Come on now. But like I said, I just always tried to have an open mind. Skin color didn't bother me. There are a lot of differences and hurdles. But I just, like I said, I think I've had such a better life than some of my family because of the people of color I've got to know.
So I guess another question I wanted to ask, what do you think makes us different?
I do think upbringing, but I think you could go really far back in history on that. I think single parent family homes, stuff like that.
Because y'all were, you was talking about that, and you said, it was something that was fascinating. I mean, it was profound when you said that the perspective that your culture sees us as, we enjoy being single parent. Enjoy the single parent lifestyle, the getting money from the state.
Yep.
And those are the things that
people see.
A lot of your culture kind of things that we're taking advantage of.
Yep.
And technically, when we look at the statistics, we look at the numbers. There is more whites on those systems than there is, but it seems like the blacks are the ones that seem that polarize and put it on we're the one on
they're on the welfare
they change the name when it comes to whites on that system when it's blacks on the system. They call it welfare on us, but they call it extra subsidies.
Yeah, subsidized.
When it comes to y'all,
subsidized.
From your culture.
Yeah.
So how did because that is something that I'd be like, man, that's pretty interesting that there's more whites on the system and receiving these subsidies. But when we took it, when we on it, they named it welfare. Like, you know, like, I'm like, well, and it made it look like we just sucking it dry.
Yeah. And what most people don't actually understand is all that initially came from, it didn't come from a color or a race or a single parent deal. The welfare, what you would call the welfare system, actually started under FDR in the 30s during the Great Depression to help everybody.
Yes.
Of course, it was still government. Well, I don't like the word government money. It's all of our tax dollars. But they like to say, I mean, I'll say that from my talking to a bunch of white people, that it's you all that are sucking that system dry, that rely on that system. And again, with the single parent families and single parent homes and stuff like that. But again, I can go back and show too where the government at one point incentivized your mothers to be single mothers because they got more tax dollars.
Yes.
So then the fathers didn't have to be there. Even if they were there, it was better if they weren't married or stable in the home. And so it was incentivized that way. How you finally get off of that, you know, is a long, got to be a long process. But that's, yeah, like how I guess the majority of white people see it, that it's you all taking advantage of the system, which you're right, though, there's more white people.
You know, and that's interesting that you brought that up because, you know, even those same subsidies, farmers are getting that same subsidy.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it just kind of, it's ironic that, that they will displace that information on just one group of people when everybody's is been, you know, because it is a system that you're supposed to use it to get ahead.
Yep.
And then to get off. Then you're supposed to wing yourself
get on
off.
your feet, and then
But since now that they have been framing, they target us to stay single and have their mothers thinking of a single parent mindset, that there is no relationship between men and women in our culture, because the independent woman and the feminist woman has emerged rapidly in our community. Even the feminist women in your culture still wants to be married.
Oh yeah.
They still want a husband, but they just want some rights in that marriage. But they know that they still understand that marriage is important.
Right.
So I don't understand why our women took it and shape shifted into this ideal that, oh, I don't want no man, I don't need no man, and I can do without a man mindset.
Well, I think it was a deal of both, and I'll tell you what, again, what a lot of white people think is it was less of the woman and was more of the man that thought, I don't have the responsibility, so I don't have to stay at home. And that's where a lot of them think how y'all think.
So they was always mad at the man because they thought the man just ran out and made all he was good for just making babies.
Yeah, just doing whatever he wanted and not looking at a responsibility. I mean, for example, which I'm sure you were told the same thing, is, you know, you and I talked, but I mean, I can remember when I first started dating girls and, like, you know, doing shit like that, my mother would tell me, if you get a girl pregnant, you're taking care of it, period. Yeah. And there was that, she didn't do that as much as trying to teach me responsibility. She did it more of a scare tactic.
Yeah.
Like, you have a kid at 16, you're done, you're taking care of it. And I think a lot of white people assume that you guys don't go under that same umbrella. And that's where they come up with not the mother, but it's the father.
It's the father. And did they ever, so if we were studying history and we were studying the traumatic slaves, do you think any of them ever sit down and thought about that they was making black men breed to have more children? So a lot of times the men that they were referring to is breeders mindset.
Oh, I don't think they look at that now, but that's definitely a truth.
Just like you got the big bull, like you You got that big cow.
Yeah, that's our.
And you use it to breed.
That's all we use.
So,
yeah.
So
and then you know what we actually do? We take him away from the women.
Yeah.
Because we don't want him in there because he'll hurt some of the calves.
Yeah.
So we actually pull him off the pasture.
And
we really do.
You know, and think about putting him back into society with his other cow. He ain't gonna have no responsibility but just to go and breed and just move around
right.
and take control and possession of those cows.
Right.
And he will hurt other cows because this is his possession.
Right.
So that's kind of what the mindset that I think that a lot of the trauma of what they were saying, because they might be 100% right in some aspect, but they're 100%, 50% right on some aspect,
right.
but they're 50% wrong on other, because they went back into the history and see why some of those men was like that. But I got two comments. Let me give you two comments. Yep. I actually I had some more comments, but
go for it.
Man, every time I touch my phone, it keeps erasing my dang comments.
Say they might be up there.
Yeah, they up there, but I can't see it there.
While you're looking at those comments, I'll tell you something's ironic too.
I just erased all of them because it pushed up, because I'm trying to tap on the comments.
You should be able to go to live on here, but I'll tell you something ironic too, which just might garner some more comments as well. That what I see a big difference though in the black and white race from others is black people hold their mothers in way higher reverence than white people do. Oh yeah, 100%. I've seen white people be so disrespectful to their mothers that I think that's a product of single family. I mean, that's y'all's protector. Okay.
Alan McFall said, the one thing I would say is that when a POC does something negative, the entire community tends to get painted in that light versus when someone white does something
correct
negative. Tends to only define that individual. And conversely, when a POC succeeds, that success is only limited to them and not the reflection of the community. I did my brother Daniel.
I would agree with that.
And then my brother Daniel Kirby said, going out of your way to travel, connect, and communicate with other people is a discipleship. Learning and teaching is a difficult task, but from my personal experience, even currently, it has been worth it. Living in Colorado in a construction trade, Spanish has opened a lot of doors.
Yep.
And Brother Allen said again, although single white women make up the largest population of welfare recipient, but welfare is seen as a black dominated function versus a white woman characteristic.
Correct. Yeah, I'd agree with all that. And going back to the travel thing, the traveling helped me. I always joke with friends, even coming up here, that which you probably know this now, especially after we've met and had drinks and all that, that I look at me growing up and going and dropping some of these black guys off in rough parts of towns and them inviting me in their homes and showing me around and welcoming me. I've always joked to people, like, I'm not afraid to go anywhere.
Yeah. You
can take me to any party. I'll walk in. If I can tell I'm not wanted, I'll leave, but it doesn't scare me. I mean, I've had friends up here that have been like, you sure you want to go over there? Are you sure you're a white guy in jeans? And I'm like, and I don't care. I can fit in with anybody. But I think that's helped me because I'm open to doing that.
Do you think sports helped you open up
horizons? 100%.
Because you was able to play on a team, and then you learned team environment, so you know that you depended on each individual player, so therefore you was able to articulate that into the race.
Yeah, 100%. And then the way our small town was, and I'm sure a lot of people on here, same thing. And even in Omaha, I know that y'all's high schools are pretty tight knit, but we only had 2 high schools, and so our high schools, in our sports teams, we traveled as groups. So like when the basketball team went out, we went out as a group. So like we stuck together. If we went to a party and one dude got into a tussle or a fight, then we all got into it. So it kind of built that camaraderie that it wasn't like, well, he's a black guy, I'm not going to fight with him, and I'm going with these white. It was, no, he's my teammate. I just played basketball. I mean, you know, and again, especially with him coming with me, and I think that helped a lot to build that brotherhood, to be like, and again, I'm in the same locker room with them, wearing the same shoes as them, same uniform, and yeah, I think that helped a lot.
And you know, and those are important aspects of growing and developing. I think that most of the time that we get so caught up in race that we overlook that we all believe the same thing.
Oh yeah.
And we all want the same. We all want the same thing.
Right.
We all want equal opportunity. We all want to be remembered as a special individual.
Yep.
Doing a special cause for ungrateful people.
Well, and yeah, and I'm in obviously I'm sure everybody knows, and we can get into that too, what that makes a difference. But being a conservative and being a big believer in capitalism, I'm a big believer that we don't have finite resources, so I don't have to step on you to succeed. I can help you and help me at the same time, and we can both do it. It's not, I got to be here and you got to be right here. I'll put you, like, there's not, to me, there's not a finite amount of resources in a capitalistic country. It's infinite. And so it helps me to believe that I don't have to step on you to get to my next level.
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that. That's an important piece, because in my culture, they always felt like y'all always had 400 years ahead of us.
Yeah.
So in that 400 years, that you're not the one that hurt us, but ancestors did.
Yep.
And y'all benefited from what they accomplished from our free slave labor, and so a lot of them are feeling like, okay, well, you know, they were able to get land and get resources and all the things to accumulate wealth and power, and when it comes to distributing that power, it's like nobody, y'all won't say nothing and say, well, they deserve to have the equal power, because, you know, even though we took the free labor and benefited from it and became and living off old money versus this new money. That's where I think there's a lot of the differences between sometimes where a lot of the conflict come in.
I think it's less. I think where you're going makes sense. I think what I would agree to is the wealth and the power that was built on that free labor.
Yeah. That
set a bottom. I think where, and again, it wasn't me, but you could say ancestors, but where white people screwed you guys over was not necessarily slavery. It was after slavery, when everybody was like, we're going to do the Jim Crow laws and we're really going to fuck you. Mm-hmm. Excuse my language. But to me, that's what really put you at a disadvantage, because
redlining and all that.
Yeah, well, because if you
buy property, you couldn't own land.
You know, you take the Emancipation Proclamation in 1864 or 5 with Abraham Lincoln. Theoretically, after that, y'all should have been, you're still behind, but should have been good. But what we didn't do was we still had these underpinnings of racism and held y'all down. Like I said, you had the red lines. You had to say they have to live over there. They can't use the same schools as us. They can't use the same water fountains, same bathrooms, which, again, like I said, I have relatives that are still alive that no, they don't believe in that, but they can remember, and some that aren't even racist. I have some relatives that are racist, and I'll admit to that, but that said they went to high school when it was segregated. And for me, that's so hard to believe. It's so crazy, because like you and I couldn't be sitting in the same room right now, and that's crazy to believe. And I think that's where really it got to where basically they're putting the boot on y'all's head. That, yeah, slavery was the start, but then after it, it was the underlying hidden stuff.
The stuff that they was going to use legal terms.
Yes.
They was putting stuff in writing.
Yeah. Okay. You can't
be. They use language.
Yeah. You can only be worth 2/3 of a vote or 4/5, whatever it was.
You know, the funny thing about that is they never, even at all of our leaders, they never went back and tried to take that 3/5 off the table.
Yeah.
It's still there. It's still there. So that means that even with all the murder and all the killing that's going on with the police department, all these things, they can justify it because we're still not. We're not human. We didn't go for the humanity.
Yeah.
For the civil rights.
Yeah.
We should have went for the Humanity Act.
Right.
Instead of the civil. That's why I was asking my elders, if we was why didn't we go for the Humanity Act versus the Civil Act? And I understand they thought civil was going to be able to put us on an equal level.
Yeah.
But the humanity, but the only way to get to the civil part, you have to start with the humanity.
Yeah, you have to look at the same human.
Humane,
yeah,
we're human like you are human. Then we were able to fight. Once we establish that we're human like you are human, then we can go civil. Because now you have a playing field to play, and I think that's where, and like you said, though, that's when because they held Martin Luther King and them off for a long period of time.
Oh yeah,
Lyndon Johnson held it off so they can make the deal with the South.
Yep.
So when the South was in the process of making a deal because they losing a lot of money, so they had to put stuff and implement in place so they can say, okay, we can use this so we can get our money back. And that was the reason why that's the reason why they was fighting with that's the reason why they held them back for a while, for so long. So even the little victories we was getting, we thought we was winning big. But when Martin Luther King, it was interesting that after the Selma bill was passed, they started partying and throwing salami and kicking it in the state. Martin Luther King went into a depressive state because he felt like he said, "I felt like I integrated my people into a burning building." Because he knew that those deals that they gave us, we was going to lose sight of the real mission.
Yep.
And that hurts.
Oh yeah. Let me ask you this, and I'd be interested if any questions come up on the viewership. And this is just to go devil's advocate. I think it goes back to the comment that said, anytime you have somebody in y'all's culture that does something bad, whatever it might be, we tend to reflect it on you as a whole, as a group.
Yeah.
Everybody's that way. Whereas with whites, and I agree with the comment that it's like, well, that's an outlier. But let me ask you this. I'll tell you this. I listened to Condoleezza Rice. She came and spoke at my undergrad university. Love her to death. If she had run for president, I'd vote for her tomorrow. And she grew up in Selma, Alabama in the 60s. The only way she could go to school was on a piano scholarship. And her father was I think, Southern Baptist preacher. And he said,
she was scheduled to be in that house with the 4 girls that got bombed.
Yeah. She was out of it. But she said she didn't want to go to college to learn to be piano. But at the time, people of color could only go to college on certain things. And her dad said, it don't matter what you got to go for. You got to go get this. And so she was, I don't want to say she was a mentor to me because I didn't have to grow up with that. So I can't say that I had to live through that. But to me, she's also an outlier because she took it upon herself to say, okay, I'm going to do what I have to do this, even though, and so my question to you is, when you have those outliers, then what do you say to the ones that, or to white people that say, well, she did it, why couldn't you?
Well,
because that's a question. That's what a lot of white people will tell you. They'll be like, well, and like you said, there's very few, which I don't mean laugh at, but they'll bring up those outliers and say, well, they did it, why couldn't you?
And there's one this the thing that I would like to say,
post-traumatic stress disorder,
slavery.
Yep.
Okay, now remember, after they came out of slavery, there was no psychological treatments.
Well, and there was no help. They
There was
had
no
their
help.
own
There was
nothing.
no help for
Yeah.
for all the traumas that was going on through those things back. And DNA is very crucial to everybody's understanding. DNA is something that's passed down through genetics.
Yep.
So through those genetics, what our ancestors went through, the generation, it could skip a generation and still affect the next generation.
Right.
So if you know about DNA.
Yeah.
So
on the PTSD.
on the PTSD part, you know. So when we're dealing with stress and we're dealing with traumas, we have never been prognosed or diagnosed properly. We just went through the notion and said, pull your bootstraps up and do what we do.
Yeah.
You are able to do that because guess what? But mentally sound, some people walk upright, talk upright, and look upright, but they ain't right.
Right. No, I agree.
You know, even myself, I can walk right now and look like I am healthy as a bull. You've seen bulls that look strong and but deep down they're not healthy.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us that walk around ain't healthy. There's a lot of hidden traumas that's within. See, what I hate about the United States and what I hate about this country is because what we measure people is by the test that you pass.
Correct. Which is wrong.
Which is wrong.
Correct.
Because that came out, only why that the test scoring came out was because they was trying to keep us down.
Oh, yeah.
That was why the test came out. Because they knew that our school system didn't have no funding, didn't have the right thing. So they integrated us in their school system. Because we wanted to integrate.
Correct.
Not because y'all wanted us to integrate. We wanted to.
Yeah.
So that was our fault. That was our fault to want to integrate into their school system from we'll say not from y'all, but from our enemy.
But you wanted to integrate on a good idea. You wanted to integrate because we had the better system.
Better schools and everything.
The better funding.
Had the funding and everything.
Yeah, correct.
But in that integrating, we knew that they didn't like us. So therefore, even if we integrated, we knew that they was able to manipulate or to keep us down structurally, profoundly, because they knew that a level of their success and the level of their success or to keep their success or to keep their power, they can't allow us to get as educated as they are. So as soon as they,
correct.
And so as the English language, the language always was the barrier because they can, with English language, there's so many definitions. So as soon as we able to get here, they change the language on us and define the definitions differently. So if I went to you and I said, well, and could be and the means something totally different as I use it in a sentence.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to have a lawyer. That's why we have to have an accountant. That's why we have to have all these people to decipher the codes.
Yeah. No,
so,
I agree.
So we're sitting here fighting the battle that we gonna constantly be diminished because as soon as we get a grip on something, they just change the language on us.
Yeah.
What was the first law? What was the first thing that was on the police department's card as we was growing up, compared to what it is today?
What do you to preserve on that?
Protect and serve the citizens and uphold as we uphold the law. Right?
Yeah.
So now it's to protect and uphold the law over the citizens.
Yeah. I agree.
So we're just at a we had a way disadvantage. And it's funny because we can sit there and laugh about it and stuff like that, but it's true.
Oh no, yeah.
Okay, we got a lot of comments.
Okay, here we
I
go.
didn't know that. Look at all these comments.
Get to them before we go to the next one. I said, let's get to comments. I like comments.
Well, I ain't got my glasses, so it's kind of hard for me to read these things. You want to read? Maybe you can see better than I can. See. the first one.
Started,
Yeah.
Brother Ellie here. There's no way to quantify the negative effects of hundreds of years of legally not being considered a person and the structural hurdles put in place to limit and or prevent growth, specifically financially and educationally of the black person in America. There is no positive light to it. The only way people can speak about it is to take their own anecdotal path and paint it as though it has the ability to be mass replicated in the community, which it can't be, yet people are ashamed and believing it has to be possible. No, there's some correct to that.
Speak on that part,
Well, and then you can read the next one.
Okay.
Saying there's no positive light. I mean, I'm a big glass half full.
You want to dissect, you want to digest that before you speak on it?
I mean, I'm a glass half full guy, so I agree that there's not much positive light, but I think there's positive light that can come out of. I mean, you could just say things of. I mean, Martin Luther King came from that. That's a positive light. I mean, he made change. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in 10 years. It still hadn't happened completely, I think. But when you're trying to make change and stuff, again, I'm a big believer in the small things that just me getting to know you at the bar hopefully might make a difference. Just that somebody, even if it's not you and I talking on here, even if it's somebody sees us in the bar, sees we're different, but we're sitting there having a drink, having a good time, having laughs, and it shows. I mean, stuff like that, I think, does become positive. No, there's not anything positive about it.
Before you do you have any comments on your phone, like from your family or some people?
Oh, not yet. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me go through some of these comments.
Yeah.
We got a lot of comments that came in. In response, I will say that we have exceptional individuals in all ethnicities. When it comes to black people, exceptional for us. Exceptional for us is someone making a past all of the barriers most black people have to face and achieving a level of success most white people don't have to struggle very hard to achieve due to a lack of barrier to entry. One can only wonder how much further they would have gone if they had success to all of the same tools that the white counterparts had access to. Then Alan McFall said again, he said, it is easier to put the blame on a community to distress and needed to do better so that the focus does not have to be on the community structure that is the cause of the distress to begin. Prince Champ said, well said. The Alan McFall said, slavery, Jim Crow, segregation has zero positivity to it. And I want to say we're not here to beat each other up. We're here to have an understanding so we can get an understanding. The things is that and I'm loving that, Alan, good. I love you. Thanks for tuning in, brother, because, man, you always bring that fire, bro. And Champ, you always bring that fire, man. It's always a blessing to have my brothers, coming in, watching, and bringing that fire. And I love the fact that we're able to have these conversations because this is a hard conversation.
Yep.
And it's difficult because I don't want you to feel like we are attacking you.
Oh, no, never.
And we
never.
don't want that. I don't want to feel like I'm being attacked either.
Yeah.
I want us to just feel like, okay, we're here to have a conversation. And it ain't a healthy conversation. It's a healthy conversation to find some reasoning and some truth so we can move forward. Because the only way we're going to move forward is that we have to have these conversations.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people don't want to have them.
I'll say to the Allen deal, of course, there's nothing positive about slavery. I agree, but it made me think and I could go on and on about this, but my favorite founding father is Thomas Jefferson. And I've read all his autobiographies, every book. So if anybody wants to challenge me on him, you can, but he obviously owned slaves. Yeah. And this is not a positive thing. But I'm saying it's an interesting thing to think about. When I went to Monticello to his house, I knew now on the Monticello board, there are black people on the board, and they are descendants from Thomas Jefferson because he was having sex with some of his slaves. Now, some people might look at that as like a power dynamic, which I'm sure it was. But you also got to look at it like, was he really, how could you hate a race that bad, but you can have sexual relations with? I mean, to me, it shows that not that they weren't bad. They shouldn't have had slaves. They were racist people. But yes, they were hypocrites. But some of these that had relations with black women, it's like, I would love to resurrect them from the dead and be like, well, if you hated them so bad, why was that your girlfriend? Well, stuff like that.
Well,
that
I think when I was reading,
unless it was, of course, if it was rape or anything like that, like that's not excusable. And I don't think that's what it was. I think they generally found the girls attractive, and they wanted to hide it from everybody because it wasn't acceptable.
And when I was going to Creighton, I went to Creighton.
Yeah.
And when I was going there, we used to study a lot of race relationship, race theory, race politics, and all the things that
Oh yeah.
And the theology behind it. And the theology behind it is because as I looked into the cultural dynamics, it wasn't the men that was as racist as the white women.
Correct.
Because the white men would tell the white women, they're nasty, they're dirty, you better not this and that. But then they over there sleeping with them.
Yep.
And then they took their children.
Yep.
And then put them in the house with them, but they was called toys.
Yeah.
That's what Richard Pryor made that movie, The Toy, about.
Yeah.
They was the toys for the white children. They half brother and half sister was the toy for them. So they was able to have someone to play with, but they was the toys for them to play with. They would put the ropes around their necks and walk.
Yeah.
And make them get on their nails and walk like dogs and stuff. But they would also give them extra privileges over the darker ones.
Oh yeah.
So it was a lot of things. I don't know how Jefferson moved. I don't know how he rotated in that aspect, because it wasn't that much information to give us, because all that we just knew that he had descendants, he had children. I don't know what role did they play in his house on his plantation.
Yeah.
I don't know that, because they didn't really give you a full spectrum of it. But I just know that when I read a lot of the things, that's what they was doing on other plantations. I
will say of Jefferson, in the Declaration of Independence, he put in there people of color, and the Congress took it out. But that's just saying.
You said who?
Thomas Jefferson, when he wrote the Declaration of Independence, and we the people all created, he wanted people of color put in there too, and the Congress took that out. But it was because, like you said, they were making so much money off slaves.
Which party didn't like that?
I think back then it was the Whigs and the something, but it was basically Republican Democrat. I think at the time as a Democrat, because theoretically Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, but it's all switched, and you got to go back and literally look at the nuances. I don't like people that are like, oh, it was Republicans that were against slavery and Democrats liked it. Well, you got to really go back. And it was, Democrats were big in the South on Jim Crow. Yeah. They loved it.
Yeah.
But it's all switched.
They didn't really switch, individuals switched.
No. And
we got to remember that, because a lot of times people said the parties switched. It wasn't the parties that switched. No. Individuals switched. Remember, Donald Trump was a Democrat. Yeah. He switched to Republican because it fed his interests.
Right.
A lot of those who had an interest switched.
Right. Correct.
So it wasn't a whole party that switched. The Dixiecrats is still the Democrats.
Yeah.
We just keep forgetting that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we keep saying they switched. They never switched. It was individual switch.
Yeah.
So we need to do more research and quit letting your elders tell you something different.
Yeah.
Your elders are lying to you. They don't know what they're talking about. For some reason, they just bought into the ideas on the Lyndon Johnson area. That's who's when the Democrat. That's when we went Democratic, when Lyndon Johnson.
Yep.
So
JFK
they need to do.
And Lyndon Johnson was one of the biggest racists this country.
Yes, he was.
I promise you.
And he was for the South. He made
was
bills for the South.
Yeah.
But he patronized us blacks.
Yep.
So he can help get the South what they wanted.
In his heart of hearts, he was a true racist. I'll say that.
And okay, Alan McFall said, it's not really a matter of hate, but the reality is the structural dynamics of the United States was pro-white male, and everyone else had to open it up. So,
well, but the entire world was male.
Everyone else was some level of lesser.
We don't want to get into politics.
Compared to them, the white male did not need a law to do because it was never written and to prevent them from doing all other groups in America needed to given the ability to do. If that works, if that's education, if that's home ownership, if that's voting, if that was military service, etc.
We'll have to have another
we got to have another
conversation for that. You're getting, Alan, no, I do appreciate it. But now we're getting into politics. We can go all over the world for that, but we're getting back to
but and with these subject matters, the reason why we decided to do this is because we just wanted to open up the opportunity for us to have these dialogue. I don't want nobody to feel that we're being attacked because our situation is more dire than it is. Tell them about the COVID. Tell them.
Well, let me say this before I tell them about the COVID deal real quick. That I think that's one thing that stopped us from talking on both sides too, is that we get to a point where we feel like we're being attacked. Like you might say something that, you're asking me for the real response of what white people think. I'm going to tell you. It's not an attack on you. Me and you are still cool. And I think a lot of times people like us can't sit down and have these conversations because real quick it gets into, well, you're attacking me or I'm attacking you. And then, I'm a big believer and I'll debate anybody on just about any political and legal subject. But once you start getting into attack words and I curse a lot. Sorry, just generally curse, not curse at people. But again, once you start attacking people, I mean, I've gotten into arguments with white people, and then 10 minutes in, they say I'm a racist. But then as a white guy, what do I say to that? That ends the argument,
Yeah.
So I mean, stuff like that. When you feel personally attacked, to me, I think you got to come into every conversation open. You got to be, now both sides got to be respectful and know where the boundary line is. But again, there's been times I end conversations because if somebody calls me a racist, I'm like, yeah, but you don't really know me and I'm not. But what do the typical white person answers, well, I got black friends. That's what the white guy says. But that sounds stupid. That sounds dumb.
But our black's greatest adversaries at some point, at some time, most of the time, is our mulattoes.
Well,
and the reason why I'm saying that, those who are half breeds have more because they fighting to be on either side.
Yeah.
Of the
Depends
spectrum.
on
They don't know where they at. So we have more issues with them, than we have with anybody else. And it's because they don't know who they are to know who they are.
Yeah.
So we are fighting against them. They change up so much because they don't know which side of the fence they want to be on. We got, I always say, pick a side.
Yep.
If you ain't on, because obviously you don't know what side you're going to be. Because you can stay neutral in the sides because you can say, okay, I know from this side because I've been over here, I've been over here. If you want to stay neutral, but do not pick a side and then
jump back and forth.
Don't debunk the side that you think is lesser power.
Yeah.
That's what makes me mad about mulattoes, and I have to say that because some mulattoes are terrible. I would rather trust a white than I would trust a mulatto. I'm just being honest, and I hate to say that. This is what I do.
Hey, we're being real.
And I'm keeping 100. Now,
I'll do
Alan
COVID
said
over this.
the U.S. has and always been political, though. Our political process is part of the condition of the country. Can't exactly be set aside. Prince Champ said, what needs to happen for
Hold on real quick. It can't be set aside, but we'll do another one and talk about that. You are correct, Alan. I wasn't setting it aside. I'm just saying we were kind of getting off into the weeds there.
Okay.
But I agree, Alan.
Did you hear that, Alan? He said he agreed.
I agree.
You want him to come back and talk about that?
I'll come back and we'll do that on another one because
okay,
we're kind of getting off into the weeds there. Because you are correct. It's all been political, but we can do that one another time.
Okay, then Brother Champ said what needs to happen for blacks and whites, people to meet in the middle. If the cost is living and increasing without cap, what would it take to cause racists to realize they are not being redlined, and it may be better to lay aside ignorance for unity in hope of getting the USA back on track?
That's a very good comment.
And then Alan said, all right, bet.
Heck yeah, Alan. No, we'll do that because I'd love to get into that too. And that can relate back to this. But you're asking about COVID. So I thought a good thing happened. Well, not a good thing. I hated COVID. I wasn't a COVID denier. I just didn't think it was as serious as it should have been and the way they locked us down. But what I thought was interesting about COVID was it really showed our tribalism because we were told we had to stay in, we couldn't get out. And I understand, like, you didn't want to get sick. I had COVID, you know, luckily I'm younger and healthy. I do know people that died from it, and so I'm not playing it off. But, you know, you saw that when we didn't have human interaction, how bad we came to each other. I mean, even in the protest about COVID got so ugly about it's fake, it's real, it's kind of real, it's kind of fake, this, that, and the other. And I think that showed us, like, we need human interaction, and we need interaction with other cultures, other races, again, because older people, young people, because if not, you get stuck. And again, it goes back to some of my relatives, and whether they're watching or not, there's some of them that are in this pigeonhole that have never left a 30 square mile of a ranch, and they don't know what's all out there and the things they could have learned and the people they could have met. And again, even if it's not just learning things, it's just people that you meet along the way that end up being great people. And, you know, I think that pigeonholed you. I think COVID showed a lot of that, because when COVID happened, we all went into our comfort zones, our close comfort zones. You know, we were with family. We would be around family. Yeah. And we went into our, again, would be like tribalism, into our zones, and you didn't want to be around nobody else. You didn't trust nobody else. And my biggest argument with COVID was not that it wasn't real, but the government was just like dividing us, where you would walk into a store and you just didn't trust the person next to you. You didn't even want them like this. You know, you had people yelling because you didn't have a mask on, or you didn't wear it right, or you didn't.
But you know what the funny part was? Before COVID hit, they was making commercials about. Oh yeah, Betty. What's her name? The lady that was complaining about blacks or whatever. She, cell phone Betty or whatever they call it. Whatever. It was like all these different things they was doing, and she was reporting that they was grilling at a park. Or they would, or Karen. Yeah. You know. Yeah. And it was funny that people became Karen.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they became who they was laughing at and said, "Oh, I can't stand her, I hate her," but then they became that same person. And, you know, and it was so funny.
No, and I mean, it. Like I said, I think that's a example of like why we, again, to me, there's one positive thing that came out of COVID is the whole Zoom and internet, and now we can do business worldwide, and I can do stuff over Zoom that I used to not be able to, which is very good. Yeah, you can work from all over. That, to me, that's good. Yeah, if you need to. I do feel bad for the young kids because when we were sick in school, we just stayed home and messed around. Now they're like, oh, you got to have your iPad and get on and do class. So there ain't no more sick days, I guess, for some of these kids. But I think what it also did is it taught us that like we have to have human interaction. And the best human interaction is opening up to something that you haven't experienced before. That's where you're going to learn. Now, you might not like it, and I don't mean like the culture necessarily, but you might come out to my place and not like how I cook steaks. Then you don't have to eat my steak again. Like, all right, I don't like Ross's food. But I mean, like opening yourself up to things like that and expanding your horizons, that's only going to make you grow. And you can make decisions. Like, I don't really like that. I don't like this. I mean, but again, you don't disenfranchise it just because it isn't yours.
Yes, exactly.
You know.
You know, and you know, it was what was found profound when we was talking about, and I said what killed us during COVID was a lot of the. We said that it was a lot of the foods and stuff that killing us.
Yeah.
And then we was talking about, we was looking at nature for
Cattle.
for an answer.
Yep.
And then you brought up a profound thing when you said, before y'all kill any cow, y'all got to make sure that it's not stressed.
Nope.
Because when the meat is stressed, it becomes what?
The amino acid gets in there. It gets leaner. There's not as much marbling, not as much fat. It's almost like the way I try to put it in a cow is like when you're just having a good relaxed day, you know, you're here, you're relaxed, you're this. Somebody makes you mad or you're about to get in a fight or something, you tense up and every muscle tenses up, everything tenses up. Yeah. Blood starts running through, so it makes everything tougher.
So it makes the meat contaminated.
Yeah. And so it actually makes the meat worse. And so like, you know, when you're moving cattle and stuff like that, you want to be the least amount of stressful on them at all times to have the best meat. And again, you and I talked about, obviously we don't eat humans, but I think the human can reflect from that and say, the less stressed we are, the better our health is, the better we are to respond to maybe a bad situation or something that irritates you. You don't get up and get ready to fight. And so I think that's a big part of, you know, not being stressed out and things like that. I mean, like I said, I'm a big believer that even though we're way up here on the food chain and we're way smarter and supposed to be. Yeah. Our brain's supposed to give us that power, that we're still mammals at the end of the day. Yeah. And so we have to kind of pay attention to what animals do and how they react. And it's no different. Again, it's like anything. It's when you see, well, you've known it. When you get mad, I've gotten mad. Or when you get in a fight, you ball up, you're red, you're tough, you're pissed off, your adrenaline's going, you're breathing heavy. And it's the same thing with like cattle. When our cattle are like that, you know, you don't want to slaughter them because they're not as good.
The meat is going to be tainted.
Yeah, and I don't want to relate that to us slaughtering ourselves, but it's just a matter of being healthy.
It's just about being healthy, you know, because it was written. It said that it ain't what goes in a man's mouth that defiles him, what comes out of it, because it comes from the heart.
Yep.
And what comes out the heart is bitterness, evil, envy, jealousy, blasphemy, all those things, all the negative things, and that cause health issues.
Yep.
So a lot of our health issues are due to a lot of the things that we're eating and a lot of the tents that we're in. We're in a stressful environment right now because employment can let you go off just for any reason. Yep. without any reasoning.
Yeah.
They can just let you go. And these Commonwealth states and these Commonwealth
Texas is a work-for state that they can just let you go to let you go.
You know, with no reason. So
right to work state.
It's almost like about to go to slaughter and going to work and then not knowing, finding out that you might get fired is just like a cattle about to go to get slaughtered.
Well, and they say this about chicken. I love chicken. That a lot of these farms now are going to grass-fed, seed-fed because they say that in those mass chicken houses, they get so much more disease because they're packed in there, they're stressed out, they're getting killed every day, which don't get me wrong, I eat a ton of meat, I'll kill a deer, that doesn't bother me. But I think you do it in a humane and in a right way. But I think a lot of that can reflect on humans. It wouldn't be any different if inside your room here, if we packed 300 people in here and locked the door.
It's a project.
Yeah, and just started and so
it's just like a project. That's why when people in trailers.
There you go.
They're packed on top of each other, and guess what?
Yeah. It's not good.
It's not good.
No. And it's going to cause rift. It's going to cause stress.
Yes.
It's going to cause people to get mad. It's going to cause, and it's no different than, like I said, a lot of these places, same with pigs. When they do pigs nowadays, they're getting away from those mass slaughter farms that just pack them in because they're not good for them.
Exactly.
You can ask about religion too. I think that was on one of your questions.
So do you think religion might have played a role in our separation and our division?
I think it did a long, long time ago. For me, it didn't. Growing up, I actually struggled with, I'm a Methodist Christian, but I guess Methodist. I still struggle with Methodist, Presbyterian, Lutheran. It's all Christianity. Yeah, Jesuit. Yeah, no, I don't do Catholic.
You had to study theology at Creighton.
Yeah, I did.
You had to practice.
Yeah,
and
but
you learned all those religions.
Yeah,
because you had to have those classes.
Yeah, you did.
Mandatory classes.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, religion was always like a juxtaposition because again, you would have reading the Bible, treat your neighbor like yourself, treat everybody correctly. Jesus treated the lowest of the low as the highest of the high. So I always thought, then how can, I can't treat you because you're black different or lower. Like, that's not reading the Bible, even though like I said, I got family members who go to church every Sunday and they still do that shit. And it's like, wait, that doesn't make sense to me. But I will say the history. So the history comes from Noah when he cursed his son Ham and Canaan and said those are going to be slaves. And then they said they moved to Egypt. So everybody thought everybody in Africa had to be slaves. And I think that's where slavery started.
Well,
or the excuse for slavery.
And the funny part is that we was not Hamites, we were Semites.
Semites, yeah.
So they had mixed the information up.
Yeah.
So but to go back to the other subject matter, what was interesting about that scenario about the religion is that I was always curious. The Ku Klux Klan always confessed that they was Christians.
Yeah, right.
And they believed that they said they wasn't against blacks or anything. They didn't like the Jews because the Jews prosecuted Christ.
That's why the Jews have always been persecuted. Because everybody thinks the Jews killed Christ, which technically maybe they did, but that's another.
Well, if you look at the Pharisees and Sadducees, they said that they couldn't kill him because against their religion. So
no, it was on the Sabbath,
and they wanted Rome to do it. So they was
Pontius Pilate had to do it.
And
they passed it on to
him.
him.
Passed it on to him.
Yeah,
because he was embarking on their traditions.
Correct.
And he told them about the traditions, and he told them that y'all are traditional people, and y'all don't even live or practice what y'all believe or what y'all have read or what y'all are saying that y'all practicing. So he attacked them constantly, and they didn't like the fact that he brought them to the forefront, so everybody can see the hypocrisy in them. So they got jealous, and so therefore but by their own faith, they could not prosecute him themselves. So they did what Cassius Pilate did. They just stuck the hand in the water and washed their hands.
Exactly.
And said, it's not on me.
Yeah.
You Rome did it.
Yeah.
And then Cassius Pilate did the same thing, passed it back out, and said, no, y'all did it.
Yeah.
So it was a conflict. It was a conflict within the two beliefs of who is doing and who didn't. Just like when King David killed the husband to have Bathsheba.
Yeah, Bathsheba.
And he never admitted to his crime.
Right.
He never repented immediately or felt any type of remorse for taking the man's wife and then impregnate her, then try to get the man to sleep with her. So he
looks like it, yeah.
So he did the same thing Cassius Pilate did when he said, let's just put him on the front line.
Yeah.
He did the same thing. So this has been going on for decades, and we see this right now in society.
Well, so this is like what you're saying, Ku Klux Klan saying they're Christian. That's complete bullshit. To me, you can't be a Christian and persecute anybody. I mean, again, I'm a big believer in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I think people that aren't a believer in the death penalty don't actually know the history of the Bible, that after Noah came back from the flood, that God said that we can eat animals and that murder of man would become man's law and not God's law, because God created a covenant with Noah that he would not destroy the earth again. But I just can't. It's the same thing I have with family members that have been racist and stuff and go to church. I just can't square how you can read the Bible and then persecute, and not even persecute. I mean, I don't have any family that was ever in the Ku Klux Klan or anything like that, but how you can read the Bible and then go home and square that with yourself. Like you said, if you said the Ku Klux Klan said they were Christian, bullshit. I mean, I don't,
I think as far as what I learned and what I have, my observation from my comprehension and from many studies, I'm gonna go off of religious folks. I'm just going to talk about religious folks. I have never in my life seen where religion had made a community unite, safe, or encourage its well-being. But I have seen spiritual beings make those connections.
I don't know. I've seen it, I think. But again, I'm a glass half full guy. I'm a practice what you preach guy. And I can't consciously read the Bible and then not be open to talking to a black person because they're black, or not doing stuff like that.
Do you use that? Are you classifying yourself as a religious individual or a spiritual being?
I classify myself as, I'm religious, but I'm more spiritual in the fact that I think me and God we understand each other. I've sinned like a motherfucker.
Define what you consider religious versus spiritual person. In your perspective.
I think somebody that's religious is going to pray to a God or some God every single night, all the time, study their Bible, and they're going to live their life fully on that. And I know people like that that comes first, that even comes before family, before husbands, wives, kids, whatever. I think spiritual is more you have that belief, you know that's there. You want to practice it, but you're also living in reality as well. I don't know. I mean, I don't think being religious is unrealistic, but I think sometimes, I mean, like I've always said, my faith ain't based on an attendance sheet, whether I go to church every Sunday. I mean, it's based on the relationship that I have with God, and then I think if you're a good person, no matter who your God is, if you're a good person and you treat people well, and I'm not saying you have to treat everybody. I mean, when people cross you, I'm a big believer you have every right to stand your ground and do what you need to do. But as long as you got a good heart and you're true to who you are, to me that's spiritual. Religious again is you're reading it all the time. You're strictly to that. You follow that. You do that. And I don't think that's how God meant us to live. But again, that's another. We can get back to the black and white, but that's another conversation.
Well, it's funny because my perspective about being religious is that I religiously practice these things. I do these things consistently. I keep that in my order. My spiritual side is I understand that when I plant something, it's going to grow. I know I have to nurture it. I know I have to find ways to help it to fertilize it. I have to hope that the sun comes out and shine upon it. Hope that I'm able to see water when water is needed.
Right.
That's my spiritual side. My spiritual side intunes me with farming. And the reason why I use farming, because farming is it's a very unique practice that a lot of us don't understand. You have to really understand your spiritual side teaches you how to farm.
How to cultivate.
Have to cultivate, have to understand the land that you before you even turn it, you have to do some preparation to it. And within that preparation, you know that you have to know the type of soil that it is. And within that soil, you got to know what you can grow in there. Then you have to know the element that you're in. You have to know the state of what this thing is, because some states have cold and hot. So if you know that you only got a certain period of time to plant, than you would from another state where you can plant all season. That's the spiritual side. That's what I look at my spiritual side when I'm thinking about how I guide myself when I'm dealing with things. Now, when I understand people, like when you had that talk with that, I said, man, I stand on principle, and all my principles are is unilateral and horizontal principles. My principles, when I stand on this horizontal, I'm going to understand my unilateral understand, because what I want to do, I want to make sure that I stand on 3 C's. Remember we was talking about that? I said, I want to stand on my 3 C's. I want to be consistent in what I do. I want to be able to communicate what I want.
Yeah.
And I want to commit to everything that I do.
Yep.
And that is to who, what, when, where, and why I'm doing these things. Because who is important to me, because I just ain't gonna do it for any and everybody.
Right.
Where, who, what I'm going to do it for is because I want to see the greater cause.
Yep.
When it's important because that's the time that I have to put in.
Yep.
Where is I'm able to utilize that season. Why? It's because I care.
Yep.
Everybody don't have that.
Right. And see, I think you made a good point though about farming. That's what I love about farming, and you can relate farming to race relations. Like you said, you got to know your soil. So you got to know your community. You got to know who you're with, who you're around, where you're at.
Yes.
Where, like, I got to know where I'm at when I go to different parties, what I'm doing, where I'm at. You got to know what seed to plant. So, okay, who am I, what am I going to say here? Who am I going to talk to? Where's the person I need to get to know? Things like that. And then you got to know how to cultivate it, how to water it, how to grow it. And to me, again, that goes to race relations, that it's like, you got to understand those things, and things take time. They just do. And the greatest thing in the world takes time. I mean, it does.
And time is man-made.
It is.
There ain't no such thing as time.
Oh, yeah.
We look at time. Man put time on
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's just to give us organization.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
But when me and you, when we said we were going to do the show, which we would apologize to the crowd,
yeah,
audience, because we were supposed to do that, what,
2 Sundays ago? I was sick, sorry.
We both got sick.
Yeah.
And so, does that mean that we was off time, or does that mean today are we on time? We've been on time.
Exactly.
Because when it was time for us to do it, it happened.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So we got to get out of this thing of time. But as I measure our relationships with people, I measure them from science. There's 3 elements of science that I look at: time, space, and matter. In a certain particular time in my life, I have to allow certain things in my space.
Yep. The
only way I'm allowed into my space, it really has to matter to me.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You know what I mean? So what we're doing right now, I was willing to give up time on a Wednesday.
Exactly. Yeah.
We came into a space that we both will feel comfortable having this conversation with, because what we're talking about really matters to us.
Yeah. I think so. I agree.
That's what I'm saying. So, and then we use multiplication charts, because we got to remember what we talk about has to multiply. It has to add, subtract, multiply, and divide.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do, we're trying to multiply the impact of what our cultures could learn from this, because there's a time that we might have to subtract certain things. That's egos, pride, race, whatever you want to. Well, we have to subtract some of that, but we have to also multiply certain things for us to cultivate and elevate past where we're at right now.
Right.
And then we divide what is needed.
Correct.
So we everybody get a fair shake.
Yep.
You see what I mean?
I agree.
It's all formula.
I agree.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not. Tell me.
No, I agree. I agree. We got any more questions on there? No, I agree.
Nope. Everybody just listening.
I mean, I agree with that. And again, I think you cultivate things. I think, again, like I said, I'm a big, straightforward, glass half full, dumb things down, let's make things very simple type of guy. And what I mean by that is, like, when we go back to the original talk of this whole thing, was how do we mend a bridge that is clearly burned and has been burned for a long time. But to me, it's start on this individual level, and it's not even just you and I talking. It's that day you walked into the bar and I was like, "Hey, what's up, boys?" Like, "Hey, what y'all doing?" And then we start shooting the shit. Yeah. Buy you a drink. I was drinking with y'all. Everybody's having a good time. It's like small things like that, I think, do multiply. And like you said, then you're going to go to your multiplier, and you're going to do that, and then you're going to add to it. And then, so I think that's a huge deal that, again, I've whoever said it, when you want to change the world, start with one person at a time. And I'm a big believer in that you don't think you're making a big difference. And you might not be that day or that hour or that minute or whatever, but you open somebody's mind up to something, and it's like, okay, like now you and I have each other's number. Now we're going to do a couple of these. Now we're talking. Now we're moving. Now we're getting other people involved. Now we're seeing each other at the bar at Flight Deck. Now we're, and so I think that's a big process that, to me, that's one of those grassroots deal where that's where you have to start, because you can't start on this I don't even say global, because we got to figure out what we're doing in the United States before we do it the rest of the world. But you can't start on this big United States deal like, I'm going to fix everything.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it all. That's why I've always told people presidents can't do the most they think they can do. I don't care if you're a Biden or Trump supporter or whatever. Neither of them can do everything they say they can do. It starts with your community level and reaching out to people and talking to people there. And we could do, I promise you, you and I could do more in this community than any president could, just based on you and I starting to talk and getting people together and being like, hey, we're meeting at this bar. You bring your boys, I'm going to bring my boys. We're going to all start shooting the shit and just, again, multiply. Like you said, use your multiplier. I mean, that to me is a bigger deal. And I agree with your analogy there that's what it is. It's not this national project. You're not, we're all looking for a massive solution. It is a huge problem, but the problem starts right here. Yeah. The problem starts with me and you.
Yeah. And and to contribute to what you're just saying, we got to understand the difference between a want and a need.
Yep.
I want to change the world, but do I need to change the world? It's a big difference.
Yeah.
I agree. The need is more important than the want, but the want is just as important as the need.
Correct.
Because sometimes the want can be more desirable and more humorous, where you want to go after, because the want is going to lead you to the need.
Yep.
And the need is going to make sure you incorporate the wants.
Right.
So we got to understand these are important factors that we have to utilize as people. And I always say, you cannot mend fences with religion.
No.
If it's not practiced through actions.
Correct. I agree.
It's
a great comment.
People talk the talk, but people are watching the walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to leave the religion where it's at and utilize the concept of what it can do as it moves us forward. If it's not seed bearer, it is not a farmer, or if it's not even a fisherman. I would say Christ said he was two things on this earth. He said two things he named himself as: a carpenter and a fisherman. Those are two important elements to succeed in life.
I love fishing.
So, can you explain that fishing is not just something you just go and take a pole and throw it in the water? Tell them the strategies about fishing. Tell them what has to happen, what you got to know about fishing.
No, I mean, you got to know, one, what you're fishing for.
Okay,
so again, one. You're a fisherman or fisher whatever, but you're gonna look at fish. You got to know what you're fishing for, because that's going to determine your bait.
Yes.
That's also going to determine where you go on the lake or the sea. Bass are underneath certain trees and greenage and things like that, where catfish live down in holes and things like that. So, I'm a big catfish bass fisherman.
You got to know individuals. You
got to know what are you fishing for? What are you doing? You can't just blankly fish. Yeah. You can't just blankly throw that out there. Again, same thing on the sea. And then again, once you get a bite, you got to know that that's a real bite to pull that in and catch it. Yeah. And
you got to know time, space, and matter.
Oh, got to know it all.
Because
got to know the time of day that fish bite.
Thank you. And
they ain't biting at noon when it's 110 out in Texas. Things like that. You got to know.
You got to know
depth of the water.
On top or bottom at a certain particular temperature.
Yep, and it gets colder at the bottom. Yeah, you got to know depth. You got to know cold. Yep.
So this is where we lose the concept, and then you got to know when to chum. You got to know you got to chum.
Yep.
Bring them in.
Yep.
So, and you might not get a bite at the particular time. That means you got a lot of patience.
Yep.
So we're
not a patient culture, but yeah.
Yes, we are a 5-minute culture.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to read something. They want sound bites because society told them sound bite things. Give them sound bites because you only got them for 5 seconds.
Right.
And it takes discipline to go outside of the 5 seconds, because nothing happens in 5 seconds.
Right.
Nothing
Correct.
in this world.
Correct.
You can't change nothing in 5 seconds.
No.
So quit thinking that 5-second rule is what you can captivate people. If you write a post and it's the post is in feed, keep writing it regardless if they don't like it, regardless if it's too long. But guess what? One day they're gonna have to sit down and write and read that post. One day, and it's gonna touch them when it's gonna touch them when they are going through something.
Yep.
When you're going through something, you would take more time out to study it. Am I right?
Correct. Correct.
And that's why I say, the 5-second rule is should be oxidized and should be murdered. It should be murdered, because we got to get into the state of mind, state of consciousness, to know that we have to do more research and do more digging for information than 5 seconds. If we can't get into 5 seconds, you can't change something in 5 seconds.
Can I tell you this too?
Yeah, go ahead.
And this will go back to race relations too. And I think COVID showed a lot of the negative side of this, that, and this goes to the 5 second of getting offline. And I know we're on Facebook Live, so we appreciate everybody on here, but
Yes.
man, you got to get out. You got to get out and meet people. You got to get out and meet people in person and see them in person. We've all been, and I'm guilty of it. We've all been keyboard warriors and say all that. And I'm not saying like jump up and confront people out and about. Don't do nothing like that. But I mean, like, I think you learn a lot from people when you actually sit down and talk to them and meet them in person and like get out and about. And, and again, I always walk up everywhere, which when I walked up and met y'all were all having a good time, so I knew everything was good. But like, you never know what somebody's going through.
Yes.
You never know the trouble they've had. You never know the day they've had. I've gone through some stuff in these past couple of weeks. That's why I had to fly home and things like that. And so you just walk up and you treat people well. And I think you learn more from that, though, than you do this. A lot of times we think interacting on social media, and I think we as bad as this is going to sound, which this because you and I were raised in the same style, at least environment, that certain things that people say to you on social media you wouldn't have said to me 10 years ago to my face.
Yes.
Because you would have known better.
Yeah.
And I hate saying that. I'm not trying to be rude or saying I'm going to slap somebody, but you would have done the same thing. Like you just. And nowadays we're so immune to it.
Yeah, and the sad thing that people do things to you because you have converted over to a better person.
Yeah.
Versus if that was 10 years ago, would you have tried me then?
Yeah.
You wouldn't have tried me then.
Yeah.
Because I was a different beast at that time.
Exactly.
So now that I have grown and matured in my understanding.
I think it says a lot too, like you said, like even know now that you've grown and you've matured, like there's a difference when you confront somebody or say something. Like I said, there's more civility to it, which is what we need in this world anyways. And I think that helps a lot. Whether it's good or bad, people bite their tongues when they're actually faced. They know better. People do, so I think that's a big thing. Like you need to get out.
And the sad part is this: my name is Michael. That young Michael's still inside of here.
Oh yeah,
he's still there.
Yeah. So is bar fighting Ross. He's still in here.
So we have to remember that Michael's still there.
Yeah.
He can pop up he can turn out at any time, but the new Michael, is trying to make sure that he is not that person. He don't want to be that person anymore.
Right.
So he fights. With an angel and a devil.
But that's a good fight
with
though.
A devil and an angel on his shoulders every day.
That's a good fight though.
Walk through. He got a devil and an angel.
That's a good fight though.
Yes, and that's one thing that we have to understand, and that's a good thing because we all need an angel and a devil on our shoulder.
Yep.
Because we need to be tempted so we can show how far we can.
Yeah, I agree. But like I said, I think too, gotta get out, gotta see people, and you gotta open yourself up to people you normally wouldn't open yourself up to. And this is going to sound bad for any family that I know is going to see this, because I love going home to family. My family is the most important thing to me in my life. Yeah. But I can always go home to family. What I can't always do is walk in the flight deck and meet you and you boys and do something like this. This came because you and I met. We had a good conversation. Wouldn't have done that without being out. Wouldn't have been able to do, so get out, meet people, introduce yourself. Like, and you don't get along with everybody. I mean, there's people still to this day I don't get along with, and they're not going to get along with me, and that's okay. But I think that's what at least is one small step to start helping us understand each other a little bit more, that you got to do that. You got to do that.
And you know what? This show right now, and I'm just going to be honest with you, brother. This show right now taught me so much, and I learned so much about you.
I appreciate it.
Because guess what? You was telling me things today. You taught me so much today that I did not. We had a conversation.
Yeah.
But this is intimate.
Yep.
And sometimes.
Yeah, not in the bar, not around everybody.
We ain't not around everybody. We ain't trying to press somebody. We ain't drinking. I mean, we having a little wine, but here, but we and a little bit, but. This right here is more intimate. Yeah. Because I believe that we're looking for solutions as well as we're dealing with problems.
I agree. And yeah, dude, you taught me a lot too. I was, like I said, once I got sick and then doing this on Wednesday, then like when I came up here to the wine, I was like nervous. I was like, oh, I'm kind of nervous here. I'm nervous here. Yeah. So I learned a lot. But that's what I'm saying. To me, again, this might be one of the smallest steps you and I can do, but it's a step that we can do, that even if it reflects on other people, to be like, go meet somebody you haven't met, learn about them, ask about them, figure out what their struggle was.
We come from two different backgrounds.
Way backgrounds.
I'm a city slicker, and you.
Hey, you can come hunt out at our place all the time too. Anytime you want, I'll show you how to hunt.
But even when you, I remember when we were sitting at the bar, we were sitting there talking, and you were sitting down on the end with Pops. Right? Pops.
Yeah.
He's different.
Oh yeah.
He's different. And Pops was, I call him Pops because that was the one that
Alex's dad.
His dad.
Yeah, it's his dad.
And he's a different race.
He's a white dude.
He's a Caucasian.
Yeah. He's a country white dude.
Country white guy, and when I first met him, he came over and we just had a conversation, and we just had a great conversation. And it's just ironic that you don't know that people that look different, walk different, talk different, we have a lot in common.
A lot more in common than you think.
We just got to learn to open up to open up those take those blinders off. Yeah. Take them, run them, see dark shades off. Yeah. And look through clear specs, and you will start to see a reality that we are same.
Oh yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, different struggles. Like I said, I ain't gonna argue. People of color have had way more struggles than we have, and I'll say that all the time, and I'll try to help rectify that, and I'll debate it and discuss it. But yeah, at the end of the day, you have a lot more in common with people than you actually know. You really do. I mean, you know, if people would just calm down for a minute and just like chill out. It's like slow down.
Calm down, people.
Yeah, calm down for a minute. And like I said, COVID didn't help that. Got everybody on edge, and everybody scared of everybody else, and this, that, and the other. And but yeah, if you just slow down, if we would just slow our world down a little bit.
Before COVID hit, when all the police shooting, we got to remember all police officers ain't bad.
Right.
All blacks that they considered they had criminal records ain't all bad.
Yeah.
Some of them had to do what they had to do to survive. Now, you know, so it is one of those things that we just have to find a medium that
I agree. And everybody, you remind me of a story. My dad being a state judge in Texas. This black
Your
guy,
dad was a state judge in Texas?
yeah, still is.
It still is?
Still is.
Oh.
He's a state judge in Texas.
Mm.
Sentenced 3 people to death. So no, but they were convicted serial killers and admitted. But
so is it true that you piss a judge off that his moral compass gets
no, not my dad at least. There are some judges like that. I always thought, of course, I'm obviously biased, but I always thought my dad was very fair, and I'll answer anything you want to Google and look up on cases. I can answer anything to it. But you're talking about he had a guy he sent to prison back in the late 80s for drugs, and just got on the wrong path. Just blah blah blah. But he got out and took his mom's beef jerky recipe, and now he runs one of the 3 largest restaurants in our town and has some of the best beef jerky. And every time we go in there, he always thanks my dad. He said, "You saved my life, getting me off them drugs, sending me to prison." But my dad let him get out on parole because he knew he could learn better. And I think you give people those second chances. You do that. Like you said, not every black person that gets in trouble is a thug or a criminal, or you get in bad situations. I've been in trouble. I've been to jail. I've been to jail 3 times, and so you get in those bad situations, and I think everybody deserves a second chance, if not more. And the benefit of the doubt. Like I said, until, I don't want to say you cross me, but until you do something that is just so egregious that I'm like, okay, I can't do that anymore, then I have every bit of faith in everybody.
You know what? You might get mad at me because I'm going to bring one of your subjects up. I'm going to bring some up. Because now, look at this brother right here. Now, this brother right here.
Pretty white.
He wrestles with bulls. He does rodeos.
Yeah.
How can you compare that? Compare that to understanding reality of people, because you able to jump on a bull, turn it over. I mean, walk.
It's a calf, but calf, it's like 800
you have to
pounds.
Turn it over and wrap the things around it, and this thing is bigger and stronger than you.
Yeah, it's like 800 pounds.
So tell us about how that can relate to reality.
It's all about leverage.
Okay.
It's about leverage and knowing where it's going to move and the time it's going to move, and using its body against itself, and doing that. And I think. And
you got a second. You got seconds to do what you got to do before it realizes that it is stronger than you. And
I got about 8 seconds.
You got 8 seconds.
Yeah.
To wrap it up and to do
just
it.
About 8 to 10 seconds. Yeah.
So what is your quickest seconds that you had did it?
Probably 8.3.
8.3.
Yeah.
So who beat you?
Oh, there's a ton of people that have beat me.
What seconds did they have?
Oh, I know a guy that could do it in 7.5 a couple times.
Really?
And you know what's funny? He's a black guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Money Mayfield. Number 1 in the world. Shad Mayfield.
Oh, so now people now understand this now. That can relate to life, because he said you have to know
leverage, know what you're doing.
Know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And knowing that once you got that calf where you need it.
And know your timing.
And you got so much time to do what you got to do.
Yep.
Have you ever got injured or hurt by one of them?
Oh yeah, I've been kicked.
Why? Because you was in the wrong position.
Wrong position. Didn't leverage it correctly. Been kicked in the face.
Did they break your jaw or anything?
No, that one didn't. I've had it broke before. I had my nose broke 3 times.
From a cattle?
A horse and 2 cattle.
Wow. Were you trying to train it, or?
No, the horse, I was actually cleaning its hooves, and possum ran underneath it, and it hit me twice, one here, knocked me out cold.
It hit you with a two piece.
Oh yeah, like big time, big time,
Quick, huh?
big time.
How much power do you think that horse?
Oh, it could have killed me, to be honest. I was lucky to be alive. I thought I was out for 30 minutes. Probably could have killed me if it hit correctly. Hit right here, and then as I was going down, it hit me right here on the forehead. And yeah, got found 30 minutes later, passed out underneath it. So,
and the funny part is that it didn't deter you quick.
No, because again, you know, I would relate that at what happened that time. We had a possum in the barn and trying to catch it and could never catch it. And the possum ran underneath the horse. It wasn't the horse's fault. It really wasn't. So I wasn't going to blame the horse.
Scared of the possum?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
it's just something that ran underneath.
So is it true that a small mice is more mightier than an elephant?
Nah, not mightier, but it'll scare them. Yeah, it's because they can't see them. Yeah.
You know,
I wouldn't have an elephant's hoof while a mouse was running underneath it. That's what I'm saying.
So, you see, even the smallest things in life can cause the biggest things to go into fear and panic, right?
But true. But you also have to know who to blame because, like I said, I didn't blame the horse because it wasn't her fault. Okay. She was tied up. I had her tied up, cleaning her hooves, and the possum. I should have had the possum out of there, and I didn't. And so I wasn't gonna beat the shit out of the horse.
Okay, but this is important information because sometimes we forget small things.
Correct.
We would really want to kill that horse because it damaged it. It did something.
Oh yeah, I had people that were like, "Oh, I'd shoot that horse."
Yeah. You remember when the mountain lion or
there was a mountain lion here in town.
Yeah, they killed it.
Yeah.
And I said, and everybody got mad at me because I was like,
I wouldn't have killed it.
I said, why would they kill it when they could have tranquilized it? They told me, oh, because it's safety for the people. I said, well, obviously if it ran in there and it didn't hurt nobody or attack anybody, they could have tranquilized it
and just moved it
and took it somewhere else. They killed it because it was the eagle thing.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't that because I said we are in their habitat. We took over their habitat. So where do you think they're gonna go?
Right.
They need places.
I don't blame them.
You know what I mean? So we got to understand, just like when they was talking about the polar bears in Alaska, they build it all out there, so the polar bear don't got to worry about. So now you're upset with them. Now you're upset with the grizzly bear because they in your home.
I don't blame them.
And so I'm like, come on now, us humans got to be more understanding. You know, and remember that they killing all them wild boars because they.
Well, we need to kill them.
Yeah, we know they breed like crazy. We know,
and they're not natural. But yeah, we're getting off other tangents.
But you know, but just things that we just need to understand.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, like when they they took all them people was ordering all them pythons from overseas and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And then they released them in Miami, in Florida. And they released them in Florida. And
now they want to kill them all.
Now they want to kill them all because they said now they overpopulated and they're killing everything.
Yep.
Whose fault is that?
Yeah. It's ours.
It's ours.
Yep.
They brought the Japanese beetle over here. Now they want, now they trying to figure out how to get rid of them. You know, whose fault is it?
Exactly.
The man-made diseases.
It's ours.
It's ours.
Yeah.
So we got to understand that a lot of this stuff is self-inflicted.
Oh, I agree.
You know, so I don't understand how we're going to be able to fix these things.
Well, we're going to kill a lot of animals is what we're going to do.
We're going to kill ourselves because we're getting so smart that we're destroying our own selves.
Oh,
AI, computers that they spend billions and billions of dollars to make computers smarter than man.
Yeah, then we're going to be in trouble.
But they don't want to spend that money for the school system.
Yeah, exactly.
So we just going through so much problems, man. We just got to figure this thing out, man. That's why we need to. This is the reason at the end of that conversation. What I was going to say. What can we do to unify? These are the things we need to unify from because we got a system who is inventing things that's going to end up destroying us.
Yeah, but that's like social media. Social media is going to destroy us. And we invented it.
It has destroyed us.
It makes us not care about each other. It makes us easier to comment. It makes us easier to say something to somebody. And, like you and I were talking just a few minutes ago, I don't think it's as much as, yeah, there's certain people on the internet that wouldn't say anything to you.
Yeah.
Because they know you're old school. They wouldn't say nothing to me because they know my bar fighting and stuff. But I also think there's people on the internet that wouldn't say anything because they know that's not the right thing to say to somebody at their face. But they can do it on the internet because they have no face on the internet.
We call it keyboard gangsters. Yeah.
And they whether you knew you were really about it or not, they know it's not the right thing to say to your face. It's disrespectful. It's rude. And not saying, yeah, some would be scared of you, but some, even if they didn't know who you were from Adam, they would know, yeah, I shouldn't say that. Yeah. And social media is ruining us because of that. Because you get both. You get people that probably should have when they're younger. Like I said, I'm like you, I've grown. I'm not trying to slap anybody anymore, but they probably should have been slapped when they're 15, 16 years old. And they would learn real quick that you don't say those type of things or you don't talk to people like that. And then you have your other people that just know better, but they know they can get away with it online.
Yeah.
So they do it anyways. And that's why I think social media has ruined a lot of it. And it's ruined a lot of the conversation because the conversation can go vitriol so quick. It can go so personal so quick. Whereas it wouldn't do that like you and I sitting here, because we know to respect each other, as opposed to online, it goes to that in an instant. Yeah, and then you don't get nothing done.
It's because they're in the comfort of their own home.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
They're behind four walls around them with the door.
And you don't know where they're at.
You don't know where,
Yeah.
The IG, they don't realize the IG can tell you what they're at.
Yeah.
You really want to get technical.
Right.
But those are just little things that, we should know. But, hey, this was a great conversation, bro.
Yeah.
But we need to do this again.
Let's do it again. We'll do more topics. Like I said, with Alan, we can do political stuff, get really into like the history of slavery and things like that. And I'm down to like get to the rudimentary of it. I'll tell you what the white belief is on slavery. And I don't mean like we agree with it, but I'm saying like, like what we think, why you guys shouldn't, why white people say, well, black people shouldn't be worried about slavery now because that was 200 years ago. But then like you made a good comment, well, there's a lot of us that are benefiting because of what happened 200 years ago, so there's a good conversation
checks
there.
And balance in that.
Yeah.
And the good thing about it is that we're able to have these conversations. We're here living and breathing to have these conversations. I hope that we open up the mindsets of people in our surrounding environments or families or communities or whatever you want to call it to see beyond the superficial wall.
Right.
And let us try to navigate through these entangled woods. We right now we're giving you the working compass so you can navigate out the wooded area.
Yep.
This is what these conversations are about.
Yep.
And
I agree.
I hope that we're able to use these things as a plateau to help people think outside of the box.
Well, and I appreciate you having me on to at least give my perspective. And if you want to call it the white perspective, that's fine. But, being open to having me on here and talking with you, like I said, I've learned a lot from you. Really have. Hell, even in the past couple of weeks, I mean, you checking in on me, making sure I was okay when I was sick and I had to fly home. So, I mean, that to me, that opens us up to, we're understanding each other. And like that was a small thing. I go on to say to everybody, Michael actually, when we canceled that Sunday, asked me because I had to then fly home because my dad had some complications and said, "Are you okay?" hadn't heard from you. So I appreciate that, man, reaching out to me. And to me, that's something that wouldn't have happened if we didn't talk at the bar and get something like this going. And that to me shows, again, like, yeah, we wanted to get this going, but you're also just like checking in, seeing what's going on.
Well, one thing I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you one of the things that that helped me through all my righteous endeavors. It's family.
Yeah.
When I came back to Omaha in 2000, I got back here in Omaha in 2000. I looked through a microscopic lens, through microscopes, and through telescopes, and I was looking, and I seen my family was so in a distraught. They were so segregated. They lived in the same city, in the same town, in the same, not even blocks away from each other. They wouldn't communicate.
Okay, you can talk it, yeah.
They weren't even talking to each other. They weren't even embracing one another. But guess what? They're always going through these entities. I call them entities, which they call churches.
Mm-hmm.
And these churches on all four corners of the blocks.
Yeah.
And they come out the church at the same time. But guess what?
Still go.
They look at each other, but they go their own separate ways. Because what I'm learning over here is better than what I'm learning over here. And when I was and I'm sitting there like, wow, this is what we succumb to. This is what we structured under. This is what God's mission. But we don't have everything has a mission statement.
Right.
When we was born into a family, that's a mission statement. And in that mission statement, we supposed to uplift, encourage, support the whole overall.
Everybody.
And then when that circle is fulfilled, it spills out into a community.
Yep.
We got families in the community that's so divided because they're divided within the family.
Yeah.
But we talk about relationships. When we go to church and we hear all these sermons, and the sermons don't never speak, even when politicians are running for office, the last thing they ever speak on is family issues.
Yep.
They never talk about
this
country stands tight because we're a family-oriented country.
Yep.
They have divided and separated themselves from families. So guess what? Every family is under the same structure of as the government.
Yep. I agree.
We ain't yet heard a president talk about family.
No.
When the last time you heard a president talk about? If you want to vote for a president and you talking about voting for the lesser of the evil, if he ain't talking about family, both of them are evil. They don't talk about nothing.
I agree.
A lion, everything in nature.
That's family.
It's about procreation.
Yep.
It's about family.
Yep.
It's about spreading his seed and creating his own. Am I right?
Correct.
Now, how do we get a veer off from that? We call ourselves civilized. And
Correct.
They call themselves animals.
Because we got individualistic. That's all we got.
Yes.
We got worried about ourselves.
And I'm sorry, man. It hurts me because every time I think about this, it just irks me because when I talk to my family, you can't never have a decent conversation without hearing word, the scriptures.
Yeah.
And I don't see no scriptures being applied.
Yep.
How are we gonna talk about word? We can spit something out of our mouth, but we can't live it.
Correct.
Live what you're speaking. I don't want to hear all that damn lecture. Show me through your actions.
I'm the same way.
Show me. Quit talking. Show me. Walk in the walk of what you read, of what you digested. Let it manifest so we can all be a better people. And when we talk about, and you made a very valid point. Ku Klux Klan don't live by what they have read.
No.
And not just Ku Klux Klan. There's Ku Klux Klan in each family right now.
Oh yeah.
They assassinate each other.
Yeah.
And burning crosses in each other's yard because they don't believe what they believe.
Yep.
Am I right?
I'm correct.
Come on now. We gotta
stop.
We gotta be more in tune
Gotta
to
stop.
our reality, man. This is reality. Man, love is greater than all these things.
100%.
God gave us 2 greatest commandments. Love thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul, and love thy neighbor, thy brother, thy sister. Those are the 2 greatest commandments. And neighbor, so if you love, when we talked, the first day we met, we started talking, guess what? I love the fact that you sat down and had a conversation with me. You broke bread with me by sharing things that maybe a religious person might say, oh, that's evil.
Yeah. Has to be talked about, though. Has to be.
You know, Brother Prince Tramp said, good session, y'all.
All right.
You know, so what is your final thoughts?
I think we'll come back to this. We can definitely have episode 2, and we can expand on it, and then we can go to some other things that Alan was talking about. I know he had some fire comments. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I agree with you that at the end of the day, it's about, you know, talking to somebody else and being better. And like you said, I love the way you ended it there, that love is the most important thing. And I think that wraps it all up in the sense that you just feel better when you're not angry and you're not bitter and you're not jealous and you're not mad and you're not, when you're just loving your whoever you're around and your friendships and your, whether you're at the bar or whether you do karaoke or whether your thing is like church youth group or, you know, whatever your thing is in life, or whatever, you know, I know people play softball, volleyball, pickleball. You know, when you're with those friends and you're having a good time, that's when you're having, and you look at that, it's because you're loving life and you're loving the people you're with. So why do we choose to get mad and hate and all that? We gotta start loving each other and just and being more open to hard conversations without getting mad at each other.
You know, and I want to say this, bro, and tell me if I'm correct, if I'm wrong. You know, the greatest gift that we all can contribute in this lifestyle is knowing that love prevails over all things.
100%.
If we learn the art of love and what love encompasses, it encompasses compassion,
Everything,
respect, trust, unity.
Yep.
Love encompasses all those things. If we utilize it to its full potential, remember, in electricity or in water, there's one pole and there's another pole. They call them poles, right?
Right.
And within those poles, currents flow from pole to pole, right?
Right.
But if you cut that thing off, it loses what? Potential.
Right.
To reach the next pole. Because what is that thing that cuts things off? Your differences.
Exactly. Or hate.
Yeah. Bitterness, envy.
Yeah.
All those things cut the potential for you to reach from one point to the next point.
Correct.
So we have to remember, don't let nothing kill the potential. Because once things are flowing, we got lights.
Yep. I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
And we got water coming out the phone.
I agree.
Guess what the light does? It gets us out of darkness, and water gives us nourishment.
And water can make wine.
Exactly.
All right, my friend.
Hey, but we want to say love, life, loyalty. We will continue this.
We'll be back.
Do this. We'll be back.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, brother. No problem.
A rich man's world